$600, 4 people, 12 hours. That's the formula being replicated across America right now, and it's quietly changing how cities respond to their homelessness crisis. But there's one detail that just shifted everything about this solution: the wheels. Right now, 745,000 Americans were counted as homeless on a single night in January 2025. That number isn't getting smaller. The emergency shelters are packed beyond capacity. Waiting lists for affordable housing stretch beyond years. Some families wait a decade just to get the keys. And every week, another tent city grows on another sidewalk. San Francisco, Phoenix, Denver, Los Angeles. The problem is accelerating faster than any city's ability to solve it. A decade ago, your choices were brutal. Either you squeezed into an overcrowded shelter bed where you couldn't keep your belongings, where you didn't feel safe, or you slept outside in whatever weather came. There was no middle ground. Then came the tiny homes movement. Elegant, permanent structures that cost between $10,000 and $20,000 to build. Beautiful solution. Completely impractical. They required permits, skilled labor, permanent foundations. Most cities couldn't deploy them fast enough to matter when people needed shelter today, not 3 years from now. In Eugene, Oregon, someone started asking the right question. Not the complex one about zoning laws or permanent housing solutions. The simple one. What's the cheapest, most practical thing you can actually build that's genuinely better than a tent, that doesn't require a construction crew, and doesn't cost $50,000? That question led to the Conestoga Hut, a 6x10 insulated shelter that took its design from the covered wagons that carried settlers west in the 1800s. The arched roof, the solid walls, a lockable door, a window, 60 square feet of protected space. The construction was revolutionary because it wasn't complicated. 2 people with basic tools could finish one in 8 hours. Materials were straightforward. Cost was hovering around $500. But communities started hitting a wall, a legal one. Cities that embraced static Conestoga huts in some neighborhoods faced pushback in others. Zoning restrictions blocked deployment. Property owners objected to permanent structures. Permits became battlegrounds. The solution that was working stopped being replicable. Then someone realized something obvious that nobody had actually done yet. What if the shelter could move? Hi viewers, here's what I want to know before we go further. If you were houseless right now and could choose between a tent in winter or a locked shelter for $600, would that actually change your life? Drop your honest answer in the comments. What happened next turned a local innovation into a national movement. Because when you add wheels to a shelter, you don't just add transportation, you unlock an entirely different legal landscape. You eliminate the zoning arguments. You reduce neighborhood resistance. You create flexibility that static structures never could offer. If this kind of real-world problem-solving interests you, hit that subscribe button. We break down solutions every single week that most people don't even know exist. Eric DeBoer wasn't a housing expert. He was someone who saw a problem in his own city and decided to build something instead of complaining about it. Eugene, Oregon, 2018. Homelessness was everywhere. The city council couldn't build fast enough. The nonprofits were drowning in demand. People were sleeping in the rain, surrounded by what few belongings they could carry. DeBoer asked that simple question nobody else seemed to ask. What if you stopped trying to build the perfect solution and started building something that actually worked? The Conestoga Hut emerged from that thinking. 6 feet wide, 10 feet long, curved roof modeled after the old covered wagons, insulated walls on both ends, an insulated floor platform, a lockable door facing forward, a single window, inside a raised bed platform, and enough space to keep your belongings safe. The genius wasn't the design, it was the building process. 2 people, 8 hours, $500 in materials. The instructions were so straightforward that basically anyone with a drill and basic tools could follow them. No specialized skills, no contractor licenses, no permits in most places, because these were classified as temporary structures, the same category as tents. Eugene built huts. Then came more huts. Communities started watching. Walla Walla, Washington wanted them. Aberdeen, Washington asked about the model. The concept was spreading, but something unexpected happened. Cities that loved the idea in one neighborhood rejected it in another. Zoning restrictions kicked in. Property value concerns emerged. The permanent structure argument kept blocking deployment in certain areas. A city council would approve 3 huts behind a church, but deny them in a parking lot 6 blocks away. Legal battles started forming around classification. Were these temporary or permanent? That single question determined whether a city could build them at all. The limitations became obvious. The model worked brilliantly in permissive zones. But in neighborhoods with strict zoning codes, the idea died before it started. De Boer's organization, Community-Supported Shelters, was solving homelessness in one city at a time. The pace was good, the impact was real, but the scale couldn't match the crisis. Thousands of people needed shelter while cities were still fighting about whether one permanent structure was allowed on property B versus property A. Then something shifted. Someone in the network asked a question that seems obvious in hindsight, but changes everything when you actually consider it. Why couldn't the shelter move? Not because homeless people needed to be mobile, because the law treated mobile structures differently. A structure on wheels isn't permanent, it's transportable. The entire zoning argument evaporates when the thing in question can be moved to a different location tomorrow. That realization didn't just solve the legal problem. It unlocked something deeper about how cities could actually respond to their crisis. It transformed the solution from static shelter into distributed, flexible, rapidly deployable infrastructure. The Conestoga Hut was about to evolve, and everything that followed came faster than anyone expected. Adding wheels to a shelter sounds simple. It's actually a complete redesign challenge that required rethinking materials, weight distribution, and construction timing. The original Conestoga Huts sat on an insulated floor platform. Mobile versions needed axles, weight-bearing wheels, a coupling system that could connect to a vehicle for transport, structural reinforcement to handle movement. The build time increased because the process became more complex. 8 hours stretched to 12. But that extra 4 hours mattered far less than what those wheels actually accomplished. 4 people could now construct a mobile Conestoga in 12 hours. 2 people could still build a traditional static version in 8. The time difference was marginal. The legal difference was massive. The materials cost rose by exactly $100. $500 became $600. For that additional investment, you gained something that transformed the entire deployment model: mobility, legal flexibility, strategic positioning ability. Here's what most people miss. The wheels didn't solve the homelessness crisis by making shelters more convenient for people to live in. They solved it by making shelters more convenient for cities to deploy. That distinction matters. A static Conestoga hut stays where you build it. You negotiate with one property owner. You get one zoning exception. You serve that one location forever. Move it, and you need new permissions, new legal agreements, new community negotiations. A mobile Conestoga gets built in a central location or at a partner facility, then positioned exactly where the need exists. A city experiencing a winter homeless surge can position mobile shelters strategically through affected neighborhoods instead of asking each neighborhood to host permanent structures. The perception shifts from permanent intrusion to temporary crisis response. The construction materials themselves improved with the redesign. The chassis reinforcement made the structure actually more weather-resistant. The weight distribution from proper axles reduced stress on the insulation. The upgraded coupling system meant the shelter could be repositioned without structural damage from dragging or improper movement. Cost breakdown gets interesting here. The original $500 static version required additional site preparation sometimes. Foundation work, ground leveling, drainage considerations. Mobile shelters eliminate those costs. You position them, secure them with minimal groundwork, and you're operational within hours instead of days. Scale this across a city. 20 mobile Conestoga huts, 40, 60. The per unit cost actually drops as production increases and supply chains tighten. Materials come in bulk, building procedures get refined through repetition. Communities develop expertise. What started at $600 per unit begins approaching the economics of mass manufacturing. But the real advantage wasn't about saving money on construction. It was about something cities never anticipated when they rejected permanent structures. When a shelter can move, neighborhoods stop fighting it, because moving it is suddenly an option. That isn't just a psychological shift. That's a legal and political transformation that changes whether a city council votes yes or no. The first communities to add wheels to their Conestoga program didn't just gain transportation, they gained political momentum that static shelters could never achieve. The legal framework shifted the moment wheels entered the equation. Cities that had rejected permanent Conestoga Hut proposals suddenly reconsidered mobile versions. A planning commission that denied 3 static structures approved 5 mobile ones. The reasoning was consistent. Temporary structures faced fewer zoning restrictions. Mobile shelters qualified as temporary by definition. Seattle faced this exact scenario, a city desperate for emergency shelter capacity but trapped by restrictive zoning in many neighborhoods. The proposal for static Conestoga Huts died in committee. The proposal for mobile Conestoga Huts passed the same committee with unanimous support. 30 days later, mobile shelters were deployed in 4 neighborhoods simultaneously. The speed was shocking. Between permit approval and first residents moving in, barely a month passed. That timeline would have been impossible with permanent structures requiring foundation work and lengthy zoning variances. Denver experienced similar dynamics, a housing crisis that had paralyzed the city for years. Static shelter proposals generated community backlash because they implied permanence. Mobile shelter proposals generated support because they could be repositioned as conditions changed. The psychological impact of that single difference shouldn't be underestimated. People accept temporary solutions they'd reject as permanent ones, even if the practical experience is identical. Safe spot communities evolved with the mobile model. Small clusters of 3 to 18 huts arranged in organized configurations. Each site had shared amenities, portable bathrooms, kitchen areas, charging stations, running water access. The difference was crucial. Mobile huts could be repositioned between seasons. A winter configuration that protected from cold could shift to a summer configuration that provided shade and water access. Static shelters never adapted to seasonal changes. The management structure tightened with mobility. Community organizations running each site could rotate residents through different locations based on progress toward permanent housing. A resident showing sustained employment could move to a site closer to their workplace. Someone struggling with treatment could shift to a location with better service access. Static shelters trapped people in one location regardless of their changing circumstances. Management rules stayed consistent with the original model. No drug use on site, no alcohol, no violence. 30-day initial stays extendable up to 10 months with demonstrated progress. Night check-ins, day departures for employment or services. 3 written violations meant removal. The structure remained firm because the rules drove accountability that actually changed outcomes. The resident outcomes started documenting themselves. People who'd been cycling through emergency shelters began staying in mobile Conestoga sites for complete program cycles. They showed up to appointments. They applied for jobs. They accessed treatment services. The stability of having a locked door and protected space shifted something fundamental in how they approached recovery. Marcus lived in a mobile Conestoga in Seattle for 18 weeks. He'd been on the street for 3 years before that. The shelter gave him enough safety to think beyond the next meal. He started attending job training. He got work at a local business. 4 months after leaving the program, he'd secured independent housing and started rebuilding his family relationships. He credited the shelter with giving him the mental space to actually plan instead of just survive. Jessica's story in Denver followed a similar arc. She'd lost employment and housing in a cascade of events that seemed unstoppable. The mobile Conestoga gave her stability during the worst period. She used it as a base while navigating employment services. 6 months later, she was back in independent housing working full-time. She came back to volunteer at the site where she'd stayed. Those outcomes repeated across every city, adopting mobile shelters. Not everyone succeeded. Program completion rates ran around 60%. That was stunning compared to emergency shelter statistics, where most people cycled in and out repeatedly without permanent improvement. The difference was the structure, the rules, the time limit combined with genuine support services. Community resistance actually decreased with mobile shelters compared to static ones. A neighborhood that would have fought permanent structures accepted temporary ones. Once a mobile shelter site proved itself safe and orderly, the resistance largely dissolved. People saw organized clusters with maintained grounds instead of sprawling encampments. The optics changed because the actual reality changed. The sidewalks near mobile shelter sites actually became cleaner. Crime didn't increase. Local businesses reported improvement in the surrounding area because homeless encampments that had lined multiple blocks consolidated into managed sites. The fear that communities expected never materialized. The problem people had been ignoring suddenly had a visible solution. The movement started accelerating beyond the Pacific Northwest. California cities that had ignored the model suddenly wanted it. Phoenix adopted mobile Conestoga programs. Austin started building. Atlanta explored the concept. The innovation was moving into regions with completely different climates and completely different political dynamics. Denver winter tested the system. Temperature dropped to 18 degrees at night. The insulation held. Body heat stayed trapped inside the shelters. Residents who would have faced life-threatening exposure in tents survived comfortably. A shelter designed in the Pacific Northwest proved its resilience in mountain winter conditions. Then Chicago tested it. A city with hard winters and restrictive zoning. Mobile Conestoga Huts got approved because the mobile classification bypassed permanent structure restrictions. They got deployed faster than anyone expected. They stayed up through a January cold snap that would have been lethal in tents. The national conversation shifted from whether the model worked to how fast cities could actually build them. Community volunteers became the real deployment engine. A Rotary Club in one city donated materials. A church group in another handled site management. University students interned with nonprofits running programs and testified at city council meetings about the impact they'd witnessed. The movement wasn't driven by government grants or 5-year strategic plans. It was driven by people who saw the crisis and decided to act. DeBoer's organization refined the construction manuals, every step detailed, cutting the plywood, sourcing the wheels, securing the axles, bending the fencing wire into the arch, covering it with insulation and vinyl, installing the door, setting up the raised bed platform. Anyone with basic carpentry skills could follow the instructions. The knowledge wasn't gatekept behind specialized training or expensive contractors. The cost stayed remarkably stable. $600 in materials, sometimes less with donated components, sometimes slightly more in high-cost regions. But the price point remained within reach for community organizations, nonprofits, churches, and volunteer groups that wanted to build without waiting for government funding. The question became not whether mobile Conestoga Huts solved homelessness. Nothing simple could solve a problem this complex. The question became how quickly cities would deploy them, because every week without shelter meant more people experiencing conditions that shortened lifespan and erased opportunity. 745,000 people were homeless right now. Not next year. Now. Every single day without shelter was a day where survival consumed all mental energy, where documents got stolen, where medications were lost, where someone's chance at recovery got further delayed. The mobile Conestoga Hut couldn't solve that entire crisis, but it could bridge the gap between street and permanent housing. It could give a person a locked door, 60 square feet, an insulated floor, time to think about tomorrow instead of just enduring tonight. Cities were finally building them. The movement was accelerating. The question wasn't whether the shelters worked anymore. The residents had already answered that. The question was whether your community would join the others already building them, or whether 745,000 Americans would have to wait while politicians debated permanence and zoning. The next video shows something even more stunning. A community that took this concept and completely reimagined what mobile shelter could become. They added something nobody expected. Something that changes the entire equation about where homeless people can access safety. You cannot miss what happens next. Subscribe right now so you see it the moment it drops.